Hello, my name is Joanna Beringela and this is my story. I grew up in a Christian home. Both my parents came to know Christ in college, so I grew up going to church every Sunday, listening to Bible stories and coloring Bible pages. The earliest time I remember I accepted Christ was during Sunday school, when I was around 5 years old or so. I don't remember exactly how the gospel was shared to me by my Sunday school teacher, but I remember leaving the classroom feeling free and running as fast as I can down the long ramp, happily thinking how if I were to run too much and go beyond the gate and end up getting hit by a car, I would go to heaven. I stopped at the gate, of course, but I think I understood enough of the gospel back then. Later on, I would accept Jesus a few more times at home, in church, and in school, since my parents enrolled me in Christian schools. But every time I accepted Christ again in my life, I didn't really feel anything change in me. I understood His sacrifice and that I can't do anything to earn my salvation. It's Christ's gift to me. So I grew up with the view that I am saved and I don't have to do anything, knowing that life on earth was temporary and that an eternity in heaven was waiting for me. But I think I took it to the extreme. From a young age, I saw life as meaningless. If I was gonna die sooner or later than go to heaven, then what's the point in living? I didn't see the point in working hard, having dreams and ambitions and planning for the future or talking to people or even wanting or having anything in general. But since God was allowing me to still live and my parents are able to provide for all my needs, I just did what was expected of me and then might as well live comfortably by avoiding conflict, stress, responsibility, getting sick, and putting too much effort in anything, and then enjoying whatever I already had, which was mostly TV and video games. Most of the things at home were shared, so I didn't have to own much. I just joined my siblings with whatever they were doing. It was like following wherever the wind blows. But God is God even of the wind. And as I was just going with the flow, it led me back to Him. Knowing about God is different than knowing Him. Going to church every Sunday and studying in a Christian school, I learned a lot about God and the Bible. Not because I was interested, but because it was in the curriculum. As EE would call it, it was just head knowledge. But somehow, God orchestrated uncomfortable or challenging things in my life to little by little draw me closer to Him. Sometime in around high school, my brother became a projectionist in church. Then part of a youth discipleship group during college. And so it followed that I became a projectionist and part of a DG as well, even though I really wasn't interested in joining one. At first, I just sat with my DG and played on my DG leader's phone, waiting for my brother to finish his DG so we can go home. Growing up, I didn't have many friends, and with the few friends I had, we'd usually just talk about impersonal stuff like school or games. So being part of a DG where you're encouraged to talk about your life and personal walk with God was quite uncomfortable and challenging for me. But that also became the start of me trying to see my life in view of God's Word. As time passed, God kept putting me in uncomfortable situations in church, in college, in my first job, and even until now. And little by little, I've seen God changing me and my perspective in life. The things I learned before about God started to make more sense to me bit by bit. But one big event that really had a huge impact on me was when my grandmother suddenly passed away. During her memorial service, a lot of people attended, and many of those who said their eulogy shared how much my Lola helped them. It was then that I realized that life can have purpose and meaning when it's lived for the Lord. The saying, "Whatever's done for Christ will last," became more real to me. The seed of faith planted in each person will produce fruit and seeds that will be planted in other people's hearts across space and time, even if the one who God used to plant the seed has already passed away. that realization really blew me away. And that was the time when I started to stop with my just going with the flow and doing things half-heartedly because nothing mattered mindset. And I began to have this desire to give my all in what God would like me to do. At that time, I was an Awana volunteer in our church's children's ministry. I started out just as a projectionist, but suddenly I found myself doing things that I never would have imagined a reserved person like me could do, joyfully and willingly. Things like leading dances on stage and volunteering to teach, all for God's glory. Later, I also got more involved in other ministries and I began to want to work in church. It was one of the few moments in my life wherein I really wanted to do something which wasn't influenced by my parents, siblings, or friends. So I can only attribute it to God, as I felt that it was also where He wanted me to be. And that's why I am here right now, a ministry assistant in GCF North, sharing my testimony with you. This was my story, but it is actually God who is writing it for me. Thank you and God bless.